All right, happy Monday. It is August 5th, quite a volatile session. Some really good action today, some good two-way trading action. We came into the session with pretty large gap down, one of the largest gaps, one of the largest overnight gaps of recent memory, definitely the largest so far of this year. And price was trading down into that key weekly support zone. That was one of the things we talked about this morning on NQ during the pre-market prep. So if I jump over to the weekly chart, see this major area of support right through here, and essentially coming into the session, what we wanted to see was whether or not this area of support would be bought. In this case, it was definitely bought. Price essentially never trading back down through that opening print following the open. If we take a look at our 5-minute regular trading chart, what I typically like to see anytime we have a big gap like this is essentially how the gap is going to be treated. The main way that I personally go about doing that is watching that opening 5-minute candle and then seeing how price trades. Number one, how that candle is shaped, what it looks like. And then number two, seeing how price trades versus that kind of opening 5-minute range. That's how I treat these larger gaps. And that's exactly what would have been able to keep you out of trouble if you were thinking short off the open on a session like today. So we get the open, first 5-minute, you have those buyers, and price never really looks back. We do have a partial retracement here into the close, but as far as the actual intent of that, of what I call the gap rules, it worked perfectly. So we get a little bit of a bounce. Price kind of oscillates near that 18K level. That was definitely a significant level from this morning. Taking a look at the 15-minute chart, that was the lower high on the 30-minute and hourly chart. Right through here, you could see initially price bounces versus, again, that key weekly support zone. Get a pretty significant bounce versus that low, 650 points, almost 4%. Then rejects there at 18K, comes and retests. This is just ahead of the open. Then we're back into that 18K. So price oscillates near that 18K. You have kind of a intraday structure build out. And we were in the live stream for all of this talking about this structure building out. This was definitely a tradable structure. Personally, I avoided it simply because you have signal bars that are 1/3 to 1/2 the entire width of the structure. The risk there is just not worth it for me, even with lighter size. Really is just not worth it. So passed on all of those opportunities. Primarily just wanted to see how price was going to be trading versus this kind of late morning structure. It resolves higher, breaks higher into the 18,200. You have kind of a retest of that prior resistance zone, right? This is where market structure can really help your game as an index trader. If you're paying attention to areas of resistance intraday, price breaks above, those areas hold as support, well, you can find an entry through here for the continuation move. So you see price continue higher. Did not quite give a test of that prior day low. Did not quite close that overnight gap, though it did get pretty close. From the regular trading hours open, or regular trading hours low rather, to the high, we're talking about an 800-point bounce, almost 4.5%, which is massive. It's absolutely massive, right? So big volatility continues. As far as what we'll be looking at for tomorrow, pretty much have a near-term structure on this 15-minute chart that we can work with. It's incredibly wide, so it'll definitely be tradable. My main focus is going to be how price trades versus this 18K level. That was a significant level during the overnight session as well as this morning and then into the afternoon even. So we know there's a lot of activity at that 18K area. Be focused on the response to that zone. Now, as far as a kind of zoomed out approach here, like a 60-minute look, this is still a pretty significant downtrend. We were leaning on 18K for that kind of clue of a change in character, but the more significant pivot here will be today's high, that regular trading hours high. So definitely we'll be looking at that 18,300 area into tomorrow's session as well. Buyers, of course, looking to see this low be sustained as kind of that weekly support zone, and then a push up and through today's high for a little more confirmation that that area of support is holding. If we jump over to the daily chart, again, you can see all this support through here on those higher time frame charts. But what I'm also interested in is the shape of the QQQ daily bar, because this gives us a good sense of what that regular trading hours action looks like. Again, you can see the difference between the NQ daily bar and the QQQ daily bar. NQ daily bar, of course, is going to include all that overnight action. So it gives us a good idea, but as far as the actual regular trading hour session, QQQ is an easier way to kind of get a visual of that. And same type of structure here, price testing that kind of support zone, traded up into that daily volume point of control. Obviously some buying here, but as far as the shape and this near-term structure, this kind of intermediate term structure now, the past few weeks, still a seller's tape. Right, sellers still in control despite today's bounce. So we'll need to see more development for this thing to kind of shift in favor of the buyers. I would not be expecting one candle to result in incredibly bullish activity. So just some things to keep in mind. As far as tomorrow's session, just taking it one day at a time, looking at 18K. And that 18,300, which is today's high. Let's take a look at the 5-minute here. So here's today's profile. Good clue for tomorrow's action will kind of be how price responds to this zone right through here. Whether or not this is redistribution, because all the volume from today's sesh is right through here. So if price continues to hang out below this 18,200, 18,300 area, we can assume that this bounce was sold into, and price will likely retest today's low and into that pre-market low, that overnight low, which is that weekly area of support. So that'll be another kind of guide and reference for tomorrow's session that I'll be double checking tomorrow morning. I do expect a fairly active overnight sesh, just because all this action is impacting not just U.S. markets, but markets around the world, clearly. So we will have some pretty good activity overnight, I suspect, and depending on where we're poised to open, we'll kind of update the game plan tomorrow morning during that pre-market prep live. So that's NQ, 18K, 18,300, kind of the primary focus there tentatively for tomorrow's sesh. Let's jump over to ES. So ES kind of has a near-term range built out that is looking pretty good. I like essentially 5120 by 5275 area. Just treating it like this, just kind of a sideways range, just in the near term. And then using this area, 5200, 5205 as kind of a mid-range reference point. That's where all the volume has been transacting. Those levels correspond pretty nicely with daily time frame levels as well, daily time frame pivot. So this pivot right through here where my cursor is definitely significant. One of the more recent higher lows, as well as the daily time frame volume point of control. Definitely an area that you want to be keeping an eye on. That's the 5270. And then of course this zone down here, the weekly support, much like NQ, remains significant as well. So kind of the main thing we want to be assessing into tomorrow and into Wednesday is whether today's rally is purely short covering. Traders and market participants that were positioned, in prior weeks are just starting to cover those shorts, which can give you a bounce, or whether there's actual buying. And again, tools like volume point of control from the session profile can kind of give us more clues on that. So I'll be paying attention to this regular trading hours session profile chart, kind of get a sense of where price is tomorrow morning, and then setting the game plan based on that location. 52.75, 52.70, and then the 51.20 are the two kind of primary levels of interest for tomorrow's session. Overall, some pretty good action today. Definitely thought NQ was trading much cleaner today, so that was the focus as we discussed in today's live stream. For tomorrow, it will be a private live stream in the think tank, so keep your eyes out for that. We'll likely start it up, 10-15 minutes before the open. We'll go for about 90 minutes or so. So keep your eyes on that, and I'll chat with you guys in the morning. Hope everyone had a great session. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to shoot me a message. Otherwise, I'll see you in the morning. Take care.